Daniel and Sarah Parker seemed like the perfect young parents, but behind closed doors, a horrifying secret was brewing, one that would turn their quiet town upside down and end with their arrest for the murder of their own baby. The small town of Maplewood had always been the kind of place where everyone knew each other, where streets were lined with neat houses, and children played outside until dusk. Life moved slowly, predictably, and there was a comforting sense of safety that wrapped around the community like a blanket. But that sense of security was shattered one chilly morning in late October when 3-month-old Emily Parker failed to wake up. Her crib, once a place of warmth and laughter, now became the center of a terrifying mystery. Her parents, Daniel and Sarah Parker, were frantic, calling the police in a panic, reporting their baby missing. Their faces were pale, their hands trembling, as they recounted the last time they had seen her. Neighbors gathered outside the Parker home, exchanging whispers, their eyes wide with shock. The idea that a child could vanish without a trace in their quiet town seemed impossible. Police officers arrived quickly, canvassing the neighborhood, asking questions that made even the most private residents uncomfortable. Mail carriers, neighbors, and daycare workers were all questioned, but no one had seen anything unusual. Surveillance cameras along the streets were reviewed repeatedly, revealing nothing: no stranger lurking, no suspicious vehicles, no hint of where Emily had gone. The town's fear began to grow, replaced slowly by rumors. Some speculated it was a kidnapping, others whispered about a tragic accident. But beneath the surface, detectives noticed subtle inconsistencies in Daniel and Sarah's statements. Details changed slightly with each retelling, timelines didn't match, and emotions seemed off, too rehearsed to calculated. The police, led by Detective Laura Simmons, who had a reputation for unraveling complex cases, began to dig deeper. While the community held on to hope, she started to sense that the story presented by Emily's parents might not be the full truth. In the Parker household, there were spaces that seemed almost untouched by ordinary life: a closet with a faint chemical odor, drawers carefully organized, yet strangely out of place. Even the smallest clues, unnoticed by others, raised alarms in her mind. As the day wore on, Maplewood transformed from a quiet town into a place of anxiety, with every neighbor wondering who they could truly trust. The disappearance of Emily Parker was no longer just a tragedy. It was a puzzle that hinted at something darker, something that would soon leave the entire town questioning everything they thought they knew about the people next door. Detective Laura Simmons felt a chill as she stepped into the Parker home, the same house that had been filled with laughter only days before. She knew from experience that the smallest details often held the biggest truths, and in this case, every inconsistency in the parents' story could be a clue to something far more sinister. She began with a careful review of the timeline Daniel and Sarah had provided. At first glance, it seemed straightforward. They had gone about their normal routines, checking on Emily, preparing breakfast, and then suddenly discovered her missing. But as Simmons compared their statements to phone records, security footage, and witness accounts, troubling discrepancies emerged. Calls had been made in the middle of the night that neither parent initially disclosed. Late-night online searches revealed terms that seemed out of place for new parents, suggesting a preoccupation with planning or concealment. Officers returned to the neighborhood, speaking with neighbors who had initially seemed cooperative. Some remembered seeing the couple in the early hours of the morning, behaving strangely, almost furtively. One neighbor mentioned a delivery left at the side of the house, unnoticed at the time, and another recalled the smell of something unusual coming from the basement days earlier. While these fragments seemed small, they began to form a pattern of deliberate behavior. Detective Simmons could sense the subtle tension growing in the house itself. The Parker living room, once warm and welcoming, now felt like a carefully maintained stage designed to hide secrets. Drawers had been meticulously organized, yet certain compartments were oddly locked or blocked from view, and a faint chemical odor lingered in the air, difficult to ignore. Meanwhile, the media caught wind of the case, bringing reporters and cameras to the sleepy town. The community's anxiety intensified as updates trickled in. Friends of the family expressed disbelief, insisting that Daniel and Sarah could not possibly be involved in anything criminal. Yet, the detectives knew that appearances could be deceiving, and that sometimes the most ordinary-looking families could harbor unimaginable darkness. Simmons ordered forensic teams to examine every inch of the house, from carpets to air vents, while officers retraced the parents' steps, interviewing anyone who might provide a clue. Each new discovery added another layer of suspicion, hinting at a deliberate orchestration of events leading to Emily's disappearance. By the end of the week, what had started as a hopeful search for a missing baby transformed into a tense investigation. Maplewood's residents, once confident in the safety of their streets, now questioned their neighbors and even their own assumptions. The detectives, working quietly behind the scenes, were beginning to see a chilling possibility. This was not an external threat, but a carefully hidden secret that might be coming from within the very home that had reported Emily missing. Suspense hung over the town like a storm cloud, and the first real pieces of the puzzle were starting to emerge. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. From a source no one had thought much about, a local delivery driver who made his rounds near the Parker residence. He remembered noticing a small, unassuming package left near the park across the street from the house, something he had shrugged off at the time. But when questioned again, the memory resurfaced with unusual clarity. Police rushed to retrieve the package, carefully handling it as forensic experts worked to uncover any trace of evidence. Inside, they found something chilling. Faint traces of blood that, once tested, were confirmed to belong to Emily. The revelation stunned the investigators. What had been a desperate search for a missing infant was suddenly transformed into the investigation of a possible murder. As the news spread among the police, a new layer of suspicion began to form around Daniel and Sarah Parker. Officers examined their digital lives, discovering deleted messages and searches conducted in the dead of night. Some messages suggested attempts to mislead authorities, while others revealed a disturbing preoccupation with controlling the narrative. The parents' carefully constructed facade, once convincing, now showed signs of cracks. Detectives began reconstructing the timeline, analyzing every movement, every step, and every pause. They noted that many of the parents' claimed actions could not be verified, and even small deviations raised questions. The possibility that Emily's disappearance had been planned rather than accidental began to feel increasingly likely. Meanwhile, the community, still reeling from the initial shock of Emily's disappearance, found itself engulfed in a storm of doubt and suspicion. Friends, neighbors, and local families wondered if they had misjudged the couple entirely. The comforting image of the Parker family as loving, devoted parents was fading, replaced by the unsettling notion that the people they had trusted might be capable of unimaginable acts. Detectives conducted careful searches of the home again, focusing on hidden areas and overlooked corners. Each discovery added to the mounting unease: a locked closet with chemical residues, unusual containers cleaned but retaining faint traces of blood, and small objects that seemed deliberately misplaced. The evidence began to tell a story of meticulous planning, not panic or accident. The detectives realized that Emily's disappearance could have been premeditated, that every move the parents made might have been calculated to cover their tracks. Maplewood, a town that had once felt safe and serene, was now a place of fear and uncertainty. Families locked doors more carefully, neighbors watched each other more closely, and whispers of betrayal filled the streets. The investigation had crossed a line from tragedy to horror, revealing a chilling truth. Sometimes the darkness we fear the most is hiding not in strangers, but in the lives of those we think we know best. Detective Simmons and her team returned to the Parker home with renewed determination, knowing that the next hours could reveal the truth hidden behind carefully constructed lies. They began a room-by-room search, documenting everything and examining even the smallest details. In the basement, hidden beneath a false panel, they discovered a storage area that neither Daniel nor Sarah had mentioned. Inside were items meticulously cleaned, but still bearing traces of blood, the kind forensic experts could link to Emily. The presence of cleaning agents suggested an effort to erase evidence, a deliberate act rather than a moment of panic. Every item in the hidden space seemed carefully placed, as if the room itself were part of a staged scene. As officers continued their search, additional evidence emerged that deepened the suspicion of premeditation. Security footage from a local convenience store showed the couple entering a remote storage unit in the early hours of the morning, contradicting their previous statements. Investigators noted that the timing and purpose of this trip did not align with any normal parental behavior, raising questions about what had actually occurred that night. Even minor details, like the arrangement of toys in Emily's room, suggested an attempt to maintain an appearance of normalcy for anyone who might visit. The careful manipulation of their environment indicated a level of planning that went far beyond what most people could imagine. Meanwhile, investigators examined the deleted messages, online searches, and call logs from the Parker phones. The patterns painted a chilling picture: discussions of disposal methods, searches for chemical compounds, and attempts to mislead authorities. Every digital trace, when pieced together, revealed a methodical effort to create a narrative of innocence while hiding a darker reality. The detectives realized that the couple had considered multiple scenarios, planning their moves with precision. Public outrage grew as details of the investigation leaked to the media. The town of Maplewood, once trusting and tight-knit, was now gripped by fear and suspicion. Friends and neighbors struggled to reconcile the image of Daniel and Sarah as loving parents with the mounting evidence suggesting something far more sinister. For Detective Simmons, the pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together. The disappearance of Emily was no accident, no random tragedy. Every hidden object, every misleading statement, every carefully cleaned trace of blood pointed to a grim conclusion. This was a crime planned with chilling intent, a secret concealed behind a facade of ordinary life. Maplewood's quiet streets would never feel safe again, and the Parker family's image of normalcy had been irrevocably shattered. The arrest of Daniel and Sarah Parker came quietly, but the impact was explosive. Early one morning, police officers surrounded the house, carefully securing the scene to avoid alerting the couple. By the time the Parker parents were led away in handcuffs, the entire town of Maplewood had learned of the shocking development. What had begun as a frantic search for a missing baby had transformed into a horrifying story of murder, deceit, and premeditation. Residents who had once waved to the couple on morning walks now stared in disbelief, struggling to reconcile the image of caring parents with the evidence that had emerged. Court documents revealed a chilling pattern of planning and concealment. The couple had not acted on impulse. Instead, every step had been deliberate. The storage unit visits, the hidden compartments in their home, the meticulous cleaning to remove evidence all pointed to a premeditated effort to hide the truth. Even the deleted messages and late-night internet searches suggested that Daniel and Sarah had considered multiple strategies to mislead authorities. Each new detail made public during the initial hearings heightened the horror surrounding the case and left the town grappling with questions about trust and appearances. As the investigation continued, additional details came to light. Detectives discovered that the couple had rehearsed parts of their story, instructing each other on what to say to avoid suspicion. Neighbors recalled subtle, odd behaviors they had previously dismissed as harmless quirks: strange trips at odd hours, nervous gestures, and furtive glances. These seemingly insignificant actions now took on a dark significance. The reality that two ordinary-looking parents could orchestrate such a crime shook the community to its core. Maplewood, once a place of comfort and routine, had become a landscape of fear and suspicion. The trial became a national story, with every revelation scrutinized and debated. Experts testified on the calculated nature of the crime, the methods used to conceal it, and the psychological aspects of parental deceit. The town followed every update with a mix of horror and morbid fascination, struggling to understand how Emily's brief life had ended at the hands of those who were supposed to protect her. For Maplewood, the Parker case became a painful lesson. Danger is not always obvious, and the people we trust most can sometimes hide the darkest secrets. Emily's story, though tragically short, left an enduring mark on the community. It exposed the fragility of appearances and served as a chilling reminder that even in a town where everyone thinks they know each other, some truths remain hidden until it is too late.